Hi guys, today we are going to discuss about V&V model. V and V model. V&V stands for verification and validation. Validation model, or another alternate name is fish model. Actually, we know that customer use CRS. Customer gives CRS, and BA will collect CRS. VA will collect CRS, and he will convert that into SRS. Actually, we know this flow, but we can have another flow that customer gives CRS and BA will collect CRS, and he will give that CRS to PM, and PM will convert CRS to SRS. These are the two scenarios to convert CRS to SRS. Here we are going to take an second scenario in the V&V model. Let's go. I said that PM will convert CRS to SRS. See, we know that PM can also act as a business analyst because he has more than 8 to 10 years of experience. Yes, right. If he has an 8 to 10 years of experience, he can act as a business analyst. See, PM can convert this SRS into CRS into SRS. He can convert. He may not convert because PM has so many works that he has to handle. So he may give that CRS to the developers and test engineers to review CRS. Now actual V&V model starts. Here I said that V stands for verification. Verification is that we are going to verify that CRS and SRS. Meanwhile, that we are going to verify the CRS and SRS low level design, and high level design. So verification is Verification is on static testing. Verification is static testing. It is done by test engineers. See here we are going to check whether we are building a proper software or proper application. This is called verification. This as like that before we are going to college, they actually verify our certificates, certificates, right? It's just like that only. See that we in first stage we did an verification to check that whether we are building a right project or a right application or right software or not. See, once after completion of our software or application, we should check whether we have built a proper application or software. So we should validate that software or application. So we should validate this application by using our requirement specifications. So validation is the process of testing functionality of an application against requirement specifications. So it is dynamic testing. Dynamic means it may changes from application to application or software to software. It is done by test engineers. See, I said that we should validate the application or software, right? So to validate the application or a software, it should be done after the software is application is developed. So here you are checking we have built proper software or application. So this is called validation. We have customer. He will give customer requirements. BA will collect and he will give those CRS to the PM. Here BA can directly convert the CRS into the SRS, or else he collect those CRS and give it, and he hand it over to the PM. Now PM, what he will do means, he will give those CRS to developers as well as test engineers. So PM will give those CRS to the developer as well as testing team. CRS, and PM will give that CRS to the testing team as well as developers. What developers will do means, they will convert CRS into the SRS. This conversion is done by the senior developers because they have some domain knowledge, because they are seniors. Okay, while developers are converting CRS to the SRS, meanwhile testing team will write, test engineers will write acceptance, test plan, test engineers will write acceptance, test cases, test engineers will review CRS. See, while reviewing the CRS, the test engineer might find defects like conflict in requirement, missing requirements, wrong requirements. So while reviewing the CRS, the test engineer might get these three types of defects. If he get any one of them, he will communicate it to the developers. So meanwhile, while reviewing this CRS, the developers would have developed 60 to 70% of SRS. So the developers develop the CRS based on the defected one. So the defect may present in SRS. Okay, when test engineers communicate that there is a defect in CRS, they will communicate to the developers. The developers check whether the defect is present or they are not in CRS. If a defect is present, they will communicate it to the customers. See, the developers can also communicate it to the PM, and he can communicate it to the customer. So it became a long process, right? So when a developer communicates to the PM, and the PM will communicate it to the customer, and the customer will go through those CRS, and he fix that defect, and he update those CRS and give it back to the PM, and PM will give it to the developers. It may take a long time. So the developers will directly communicate it to the customers, so the customer can fix the defect and update those CRS and give it back to the test developers as well as the test engineers, testing team. So what developers will do by getting those updated CRS means, they will update the developed SRS. They will update those SRS by seeing the CRS, and meanwhile the testing team will update update those acceptance test plan, update acceptance test cases, and give review on the updated CRS. So even if test engineers find a defect in CRS, he will communicate to the developers, and developer will go through that CRS, and if he finds is a defect, he will communicate to the customer, and the customer will go through the CRS, and he will fix the defect, and he will give the updated CRS to the developers, and the developers will will update the SRS by looking into the updated CRS, and the customer will give the updated CRS to the testing team as well. So what the testing team will do, they update the acceptance test plan, update the acceptance test cases, and give review on the updated CRS. Okay, this process continues until test engineer says there is no defect in CRS. So meanwhile, during this time, the developers have completed the developing of SRS. So what PM will do means, the PM will hand over this completed SRS to developers to develop high level design, as well as the testing team to give review on the SRS. So what test engineers will do, test engineer will write system test plan, test engineer will write system test cases, test engineers will review SRS based on CRS. While reviewing the SRS based on CRS, the test engineer finds any defect on SRS, he will communicate it to the developers. What developers will do, they will check whether the defect is present in SRS or not. If the defect is present, they will fix the defect and give the updated SRS to the developers to update HLD, as well as the testing team to review on the updated SRS. So what testing team will do, they will update those system test plan. They will update system test cases. They will give review on updated CRS based on the SRS. So here the developers will not hand over that SRS to the customers, because the SRS is developed by the developers only. So they have to fix the defect and they have to update those defects in the SRS. Even after the test engineers find a defect in the updated SRS, they'll communicate to the developers, and developers will go through the SRS and fix the defect and give it to the testing team. And the testing team again, they update the system test plan, they update system test cases, and give review on updated SRS based on the CRS. This process continues until the test engineer says there is no defect in SRS. So meanwhile, during this process, the developers had completed the development of the HLD. Now what PM will do, PM will give this HLD design to the developers to develop LLD, and he will give that HLD to the testing team to give review on the HLD. Now what test engineers will do, test engineers will write integration test plan test engineers will write integration test cases. Test engineer will review HLD based on SRS. So while reviewing the HLD, if test engineer finds any defect, he will communicate it to the developers. Now what developers will do, he'll check whether the defect is present in HLD or not. He will check, and if he finds any defect in the HLD, he will fix that defect and he will give that updated HLD to the testing team as well as the developing team. The developing team, what they do means they will update the LLD based on the updated HLD. And what testing team will do? The testing team will update the integration test plan, integration test cases, give review on the updated HLD based on the SRS. So while reviewing the updated HLD, if a test engineer finds any defect in updated HLD, he will communicate to the developers, and the developers will check that HLD, and if they find any defect in the HLD, fix the defect and give updated HLD to the testing team. Now testing team, they will update integration test plan. They will update the integration test cases and give review on updated HLD based on the SRS. So this process continues unless the test engineer says if there is no defect present in the HLD. So during this time, the developers would have completed the LLD. What PM will do? The PM will hand over this to the developers to code. For coding, PM will hand over this LLD as well as to the testing team. Hand over to the testing team. Here, what the test engineers will do? First, test engineers will write functionality test plan. Functionality test plan. Here will test engineers will write functionality test cases. They will give review on the LLD based on HLD. Based on the HLD. While reviewing the LLD based on the HLD, if test engineers finds any defect in LLD, they will communicate it to the developers, and the developers will go through the LLD, and they will if they find any defect in the LLD, they will fix the defect and then give updated LLD to the developers to update that coding based on the LLD, and give that updated to the test engineers so that they can update the functionality test plan, and they can update functionality test cases, and they can give review on the LLD, updated LLD based on the high level design, that is HLD. So this process continues unless the test engineer says there is no defect in the LLD. So meanwhile, the developing team would have completed the coding. And when developers completed the coding, they go white box testing. In white box testing, the developers will test their code. So if they find any defect, they will go defect, and again they will go for the white box testing. They will continue this process until they find they think that there is code is or source code is error free. If they think code is error free, they'll give it to the error free, then software will be ready and they will give it for a testing team. When the testing team get software, they'll execute functionality. When testing team get the software which is error free, they'll start testing by executing the functionality test cases. So by executing the functionality test cases, they do the functionality testing. So they will go for functionality testing. By executing the functional test cases. They will do functionality testing by executing the functionality test cases. If they find any defect, the test engineers finds any defect in the functionality by doing functional testing, they will communicate it to the developers. Now the developers will go through the source code and fix the defect and give the updated software to the testing team, and again they will perform the functionality testing. If the test engineer feels that there is no defect while doing the functionality testing, then he will complete the functionality testing. Then he will go for the integration testing. He will do integration testing by executing the integration test cases. So while doing integration testing, if the test engineer finds any defect, then same as he will communicate it to the developers, and developers will go into the source code and they will fix the defect and give the updated software to the test engineers. Now what test engineer will do means, he will check whether the defect is present or not, fixed or not. If defect is fixed, and again he will start testing the software. That means he will start doing the integration testing. So when I said that when test engineers, when developers fix the defect and give the updated software to the test engineers, so again they will not do the functionality testing. They will start with integration testing only, because the functionality testing is done and integration, so they are doing the integration testing. This integration testing continues unless the test engineer says that there is no defect, that he finds no defect in this. So after integration testing is completed, they go for system testing. They go for system testing. The test engineers will do system testing by executing the system test cases. If test engineers finds any defect while doing the system testing, they will communicate it to the developers. The developers look into the source code, and fix the defect and give the updated software to the test engineers. Now the test engineers will check whether the defect is fixed or not. If defect is fixed, they will start testing the software by executing the system test cases. So system testing is carried on until the test engineer feels that he finds no defect in the software. After system testing is done, they go for the acceptance testing. acceptance testing. So they will do acceptance testing by executing the acceptance test cases. They will do the acceptance testing by executing the acceptance test cases. If test engineer finds any defect while doing the acceptance test cases, he will communicate it to the developers. The developers will go into the source code and fix the defect and give the updated software to the test engineers. So they will test engineer when they receive the updated software, they will check whether the defect is present or fixed or not, and they will start do the acceptance testing. When they get updated software, they will not do functional testing, integration testing and system testing again. They will do only acceptance testing. Okay, the acceptance testing continues until unless when test engineer says there is no defect he finds no defect. So when test engineer finds no defect in the acceptance testing, he will hand over it to the customer. See here, acceptance testing is done by either developers or end users or customer. Starting from SRS to the design of LLD is known as verification. This process is known as verification because here we are checking whether we are building a right project or not. Before I said that verification is the testing SRS, CRS, HLD and LLD. So this is the verification process. So why we go for verification? So whether we are checking whether we are building the right project or not. So okay, this is known as verification, and this whole process is known as validation. Validation. The validation is we are doing the validation to check whether we have built the right project or not. They will do validation by executing the requirements or customer requirement specifications on the software. It is validation. They will do validation. We will do validation to check whether we have built a proper project or not. So this validation process is a dynamic process because it might changes from project to project or company to company. And here this verification is a standard project because this CRS and SRS, HLD and LLD should be in every project. So it is a static testing. And it is a dynamic testing. Dynamic means it might change. It changes. Static means it will remain same for every project. Okay, this is a VNV model.